Hello, welcome to my door build part 2. If you missed part 1, you should go check that out. That way this will all make better sense. Alright, at this point I have both faces of the torsion box covered with a veneer plywood. And right now I'm just cutting the top and bottom of this door on the edges. I'm just concerned about the edges and I want to get that flush, add solid wood, and then I can work on the sides, the edges of the sides to get those flush. So everything in order, and here you can just see this simple vacuum attachment. I'm getting ready to glue some maple on the bottom of this door, and I'm going to glue a piece at the top. And I thought I'd show something that might help somebody out there when you're doing a glue up. Glue ups can be kind of stressful. Let me set the camera here. There. Me scoozy. And so I'm gluing the top and the bottom on, and I want these to be dead flush. And what a guy can do is I can glue this side on, right, flush it up, and not put glue at the bottom, and I can concentrate on getting this exactly where I want that, nice and flush. Once this sets up for about 5 minutes, I can release the clamps. This will stay adhered, and then I can glue the bottom on down there, and essentially I'm gluing these on at the same time, just not at the exact same time, and it will create a much less stressful glue up, yeah? Now the reason I only cleaned up the top and bottom and added solid wood there is because now that they're on, I can clean up the side edges, including that solid wood, and then I'll have nice straight references for the side pieces. And here I'm using this StewMac scraper. I'll leave a link to the YouTube video that I made about these and a link to purchase your own. No affiliation, I just think they're glorious for certain tasks. I've scraped the glue so I'll have a nice clear and accurate path for the skill saw and router, and here I'm making a scoring cut to prevent chipping. It won't chip on the bottom because of the direction of the blade rotation. Okay, I got a nice straight cut. I'll clean this up even better with the router. I'm running the router right here against my straight edge because it can be different if you rotate the router. So I know that this is my point of contact with a straight edge. And an easy way to determine the distance of the bit to this edge is I made this little jig. It's just a couple of scraps of wood, right? And I made it a little bit big just to give myself a bit of cut with the router bit. You can see that bit of a notch. And now it's super simple. I can take this jig, place it against my door edge, like so, and then bring the straight edge up to it. And I know I'll be cutting exactly that much off the door edge. Now that the solid maple is glued on all the way around the perimeter, I can flush that up or get it close with a router, right? And so what I have here is a simple jig. You can see it has a base or a platform that's anchored to one edge of the router, right? And a brace. I've got a metal brace attached to this block of wood. Real simple, just kept it simple. I'll dismantle this when I'm done. But after this is all done, then I can take a sander and get everything nice and flush perfectly. You'll notice here, after using the router, it's not exactly flush. I just leave a tiny little bit proud, mark all that with a pencil, and then I'll hit that with a belt sander. The reason I like a belt sander is because a belt sander has a platen and a palm sander does not. Sometimes called a DA, which stands for dual action. They not only spin, but they oscillate in tiny 3 or 5 millimeter circles. Well, even with a hard pad, they don't sand flat. So with a platen on a belt sander, this will be flat and flush. It seems like occasionally you have to drill different holes in hook and loop paper. This is how I do it, just a couple of boards. That keeps everything nice and tight. Here I just had to drill one single hole. This big sander only has one hole for the extraction for the vacuum. And it's actually designed for solid surface. It almost looks like a floor sander, but literally 6 different heads, or I'm sorry, 4 6-inch heads sanding simultaneously, and it makes a superb finish, nice and flat, and of course smooth. Now you're probably thinking, well, this is a DA of sorts, and I thought you said they didn't sand flat. Well, they don't, so you want to keep it away from the edge. This beast is fantastic. This is made by Surcare, Surcare, and it makes quick work of something like this. This, like I had mentioned, this is designed for solid surface, but of course it could be used on something like this. And I think they're getting more popular now with all the large live edge tables, etc. But just a blast to use. All right, there's the door sanded and installed. Of course, I routed hinges and beautiful reveal all the way around. The proverbial tape pull, right? And I actually used 4 commercial duty ball bearing hinges. Probably overkill for the door, but there's nothing wrong with overkill. I want it to be smooth and work always. And I actually goofed and I routed a cavity for the deadbolt, but I routed it in the wrong place. It was actually upside down. So I'm just simply going to make a little patch or a plug. I mean, it's my door. What do you do? And man, I can really tell that this is an old video. I got a blue Formica work table and this old sander sled. Yeah, it's been revised, but still very effective. All right, let's see how we did. This is totally by eye, sneaking up on those rounded corners to get a pretty good fit. And I'm a little disappointed because, I mean, years later, yeah, I would have matched the grain, but I never notice it anymore. And funny little things like this, my beautiful lady says that I do them for me. So this reads fabrication and repair completed. Yeah, July 30th, 2017. And this is just like a piece of wood shaving, probably a poplar shaving, right? So yeah, we'll just cram it in there. Bit of a time capsule. Yeah, man, with the door installed and everything working and functioning like it should, I love the way the Baltic birch looks. Now, this is going to get stained, so it won't be so drab. And the mechanism or the lock, or the key, I should say, I'm still contemplating on how to do that at this time. And what I realized is that if the magnet attracts or, sticks to the deadbolt, then it's going to scratch the surface. It's going to be lacquered. It wouldn't take long for small magnetic particles to attract to that area and scratch. So I decided to make it an opposing key where exactly that. The magnets will oppose each other to get that deadbolt to function. So now I decided to add some dominoes. I'm going to add some 14 millimeter dominoes all the way through the edge into the frame. The torsion box frame is probably strong enough since that's a lot of long grain to long grain, but I just, wanted to make sure. So adding some 14 millimeter dominoes can't hurt a thing. And yep, I make my own dominoes. I'll leave a link to a YouTube video called, I believe, Shop Made Dominoes or something like that. Anyway, these are made of Baltic birch. They work fantastically well. Hello. So this is the next morning. Got all my plywood dominoes glued in. They've dried overnight and they're sticking out slightly. And easiest way for me to get them nice and flush like this is with this guy. Flush cut router bit with a bearing. Super easy. Then a little bit of sanding. And this thing's ready for stain and finish. All right, at this stage, obviously it's already stained. And I used to use oil-based stains like Minwax, but I prefer alcohol-based stains. They're easier to apply. The dry time, of course, is much faster. Anyway, this is some early American color-ish brown, whatever color it is. I'm not really sure. However, it made the Baltic birch really pop and should look fantastic. And this is my little setup for flipping this heavy, massive door where I can spray both sides. And look for an upcoming YouTube video where I talk about inlay and marquetry. In this situation, it's actually both processes. And I've used this quite a bit. I've used it on our front door of our home, a pair of sawhorses, my workbench, and of course above this shop door. All right, onto the latch. So I needed some sort of plate for the deadbolt to engage into. So I thought aluminum would be a good choice of materials. As a matter of fact, I have a YouTube video called Non-Ferrous Metals Cut with Woodworking Tools. I'll leave a link in the description. You can check that out. So over the table saw, I cut a piece to size, cut it to length with the chop saw, drilled a few holes, and connected those holes with a file, routed a small chamfer, and installed this latch plate. Let me show you more. Since I use a 1/2 inch router bit to cut the latch plate cavity, that means I need 1/4 inch radiuses on this latch plate. And I'm that weird guy. I like round corners on hardware. I realize that square corners are more traditional, but I love the process of making that fit by hand, and I've been doing it for decades. I just do it by eye. Since I'm relying on magnetic forces to move that deadbolt, things had to be extremely accurate. I can't have any resistance with that deadbolt. So here I made a simple jig at the table saw, and when I'm using a router for work like this, I like a 1/2 inch straight bit and a 1 inch collar. That's a difference of a 1/2 inch. The math is easy. I needed a 1 3/8 by 5 1/8 cavity, so I simply added a 1/2 inch to those dimensions, 1 7/8 by 5 5/8. Got the holes countersunk, nice and polished. This will slip in here. And incidentally, I painted the entire jamb green. That's the color of all the trim in my shop. And the inside of the latch hole is painted black. There it goes. I wanted to show you a little quick tip. So I've got these 1/4 inch lags, whatever they are. And I've done a test fit to check, the size of the pilot hole. And so you can run that through there. It'll heat up the bit a little bit. I mean the lag. And then the wax just melts onto the threads. I like using soft wax. It's a really awesome tip. And that'll run right in. Purdy, right? Let's see how it works. So there he goes. Unlocked, locked. Unlocked, locked. I put a little bit of white tape so you could see the strike in action. Or the deadbolt, the sliding deadbolt, I should say. And this is my temporary key. You can see, this is freshly lacquered or probably conversion varnish. Just don't want it to scratch. So I have that encased with paper towel or something. But it glides really easily. So check it out. Got all my pieces stained and lacquered for my entablature, I believe they call it. That's the section that goes across the doorway at the top. You can see my side pieces. They're just sitting there. And the little plinth blocks. And all made out of Baltic birch plywood. So right here we've got the crown, the frieze, the cornice, and the trim, I think, or the shelf. Anyway, this whole assembly will get put together in place. This is 2 layers of 5/8. This one is 2 layers of 1/2 inch Baltic birch, just set up like that, and then routed with an OG and a cove to make that all up. Yeah, too fun. All right, now it's onto the handle, and I needed a way to line up the magnet exactly each and every time. So what I've got here is some Baltic birch. You can see I put a large cove on this part of the handle, and I want to put a cove on the end. So what I've done is I set up this temporary table and the bandsaw, my bandsaw fence, since I don't have an outfeed table at this point. And what I can do is anchor this to this fence like so. Maybe. Come on, Ramon. Then I should be able to rotate that into the spinning bit. So one end worked perfectly. This is a little bit sped up, but let's attach it again and do the other end. And you can see I'm just controlling that. I put a clamp in place just so it doesn't drift down and hit that bit. That would be disastrous. And doing, progressive cuts, little at a time, till I make that cove. We can remove that. Boom, beautiful little cove. Curved on the end. So those would be the standoffs that gets the handle away from the door. And this here, you can see I've got a groove with a little separate piece. That way I can use a couple of bolts to sandwich the door between them. And that just blends perfectly. Should work well. I'll show more on this here in a bit. I'm getting ready to drill the holes for the handle, going through here. And I figured I could keep things aligned this direction horizontally with a square. And I figured that maybe with a laser, I can keep the laser in the center of the drill bit and keep things aligned this direction. Should work, right? I just have this thing stuck on there with double-sided tape. So yeah, progress. All right, so finally getting this thing in place, and you can see that it's still raw. I didn't want to commit to staining it and spraying it. It takes a little bit of time. I wanted to make sure everything was going to work. And you'll notice the size of this, and it's like a long horizontal handle. And the reason for that, and I'll show it here in a little bit, is because I needed to be able to index exactly where the magnet would go. And so this is my reference for the magnet within the deadbolt. And this little piece, I've actually never glued it in, and it still looks the same as the day I first put it into place. And this is known as a plinth block, right? I think originally somebody cut a piece of trim too short and the plinth block was born. That's my theory. So this plinth block, I've got my website and the date of completion and a magnet. And let me set this up right here. See if I can get the right angle. This magnet in this plinth block repels the one in the door. You can see it move in the door. And that creates a slight space as this slides the deadbolt, locked and unlocked. And then there's magnets in the door and in the frame, and that keep the door closed. And then this dude, he lives right here. All right, so this is the shop side, and I didn't have enough room for trim, so I just cut the jamb in tight when I made the opening. This was originally an exterior wall, and this was the sidewalk here. And then this room that we're in here, this is the shop where I have most of my main tools. Or my machines, I should say. This was actually an RV storage. It has 12-foot ceilings, small RV, but it was an RV storage. But anyway, so I cut it in tight, no trim, because I've got cabinets on each side. And of course the mechanism works the same way, but with a different key. Let me show that to you. Oh, and the magnetic or the metal bars that are hidden within the door on this side, I love that. It's very effective. I've got my decimal equivalent chart up there, some extra magnets, some of the larger magnets. Jobs in progress, I've got my notes for my DF500, my XL700. Over there I've got, I had shipped off some blades, some jobs in progress, stuff like that. Super effective, very handy, and in your face when I'm going through that door, I'm reminded. All right, so this is where the key lives, and the polarity had to be different, because of the magnet. So hidden within here, this is the side that activates it. Actually, yeah, that's a strong side, so it's closest to this, face. Oh, and before any keyboard warriors go off about, oh, that's too slow. What if you have a fire? Now all I need is a magnet to break into your house, and you know what? Don't even start. This is just for fun. I like testing out magnet strengths and techniques or ideas. So yeah. Anyway, boom, locked, unlocked. You see the deadbolt, boom. And this repels so it won't scratch that lacquered surface. And yeah, watch the door as it gets close. There's 5 magnets in the door, 5 magnets in the frame, and from about an inch away it just draws it in. Isn't that freaking awesome? I've got little felt pads here so it doesn't slam, and it keeps it closed. Sometimes if I have all the doors or windows open in my shop, it can get breezy in here. There's windows in this side in the garage, and without those magnets, this door would go open. So I just wanted a door that was simple to go through with no doorknob. And this thing's wide. This is about 46 inches wide. So yeah, man, I love it. All right, let me show you this door in action. And incidentally, the logo above my door, that's inlay and marquetry, but this video is getting kind of long already, so I'll do that in a separate video. So yeah, that'll be coming out soon. It's interesting, this door fits in the frame really well, and there's a door behind me that goes into the house. And if that one is slightly open, I can open this door quickly and the rush of air will close that other door. I absolutely hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you got some pointers that you can use. And as always, thanks a ton for watching.